It's Jim from the Mavestar Observatory. Why don't you make yourself a drink and we'll have a little talk about a few things that are coming up in the future. We'll start from a bit of foundation because I know some of you have been on YouTube now searching for truth, probably on a multitude of levels, and have over the years, through doing your own research, come to some similar conclusions as to what I have. I mean, I think if we start with one of the obvious ones now, we can safely say that, governments aren't led by people that want to do the best for the people. It seems, in my view, that if ever you wanted to be one of the richest men on the world, probably the best way to go about doing that would be to take control of the taxpayer's purse. And if you can do that, and you've got a string of businesses or friends with a string of businesses, you can very much make yourself a very nice nest egg for your retirement, let's say that. Because none of these politicians, as we know it, are poor. I think we're running out of time, and we're running out of time very quick on a multitude of scale of things. I was watching a popular YouTuber talking about the transition now to artificial foods. We've seen some of the laboratory tests done on the genetically modified foods. Someone would say, oh, well, it's a little bit controversial, you're targeting just a few examples of results. But if we just look at what has happened in the industry where genetically modified crops have been concerned, and look at some of the test results and live animal tests that have been conducted, you could say that the evidence was there not to put this into the consumer market, but because there is big corporate interests, unfortunately, there's a push for it. And when you've got people lobbying politicians and making incentives for them to bring forward these foods into industry so that they end up in the public arena, then it's really concerning. And there's only it's only going to be a matter of time before the real impacts of these products get into our market. My view on it is that our body has never adapted to some foods that we consider consumable now. And I know I can get into some trouble with some people for saying this, but scientifically, some dairy products have never been acceptable to the human body in any case. Our bodies have never known what to do with dairy products from the research that I've looked into on that. But if we look at the fact that we've evolved over thousands of years, and the crops that have been on the planet for thousands of years have married up very nicely with us, and in the last 150 years we're changing that marriage of the food that we eat, which was natural, and this modified foods. And it's modified for a range of reasons. You can make chickens bigger if you want, you can make heads of corn bigger, and you can go across the whole range now because of what we learned about the molecular build-up of plant matter and animal matter. We have put ourselves now in a technological position to manipulate it to how we want. But the problem is that our digestive systems and our organisms within our body have been used to evolving slowly alongside all these things that have naturally occurred at the same time. And when we start introducing new things into our diets, I'm confident that our bodies are not yet caught up to dealing with these things, and therefore they're not going to be in a way nutritional for us. Let's just say that in the long term they might even cause serious health problems. But I think what is taking place in this day and age is completely all related to just a couple of things. If we do a bit of work and we trace it all back, we will find that one of these things that has changed perhaps over the last 30 years and has had a massive impact across industries, climate and environments would be the magnetic pole reversal that is taking place. And we shouldn't think any otherwise. I mean, this is a rare event. The last time there was a completed magnetic reversal on this planet was 780,000 years ago. It gives you a bit of an idea how rare that is because of that length of time. There may well have been some excursions. This is a new understanding which is becoming more and more popular now and talked about more on YouTube at least. And the last magnetic excursion that took place was around 12 to 14,000 years, and then you can go back another 20-odd thousand years, and you can go back, and there has been times where there's been quite a few within the last completed reversal. There's been quite a lot, like I say, of these excursions, and an excursion is slightly different to a completed magnetic reversal because excursions last very short periods of time, and that's why they're harder to detect. But nevertheless, what would happen during an excursion would still happen during a completed magnetic reversal. And the thing that we're concerned about and concentrate more on now, especially at the Mavestar Observatory, we're not just tracking the magnetic pole and the high intensity regions now globally, but we're also in the process of building these muon detectors, and then a bit later on developing them to do a little bit more than just detect muons, but perhaps do the job of these two to combine, and also to probably deliver the data live up onto the website. So at any given point you will get live data from several locations, but for now we're just concentrating on building them. So I think that the majority of these problems, if you trace back, like I say, I think that they stem from, first of all, the magnetic reversal, and then as a result of a magnetic reversal we get climatic change, and we also have something which is even more of a hindrance to us and is going to become more of an issue further down the road, and that is the cosmic rays themselves, because they are now found to be carcinogenic, altering cardiac arrhythmia, and also the weather on our planet. As a result of that, it will affect us, and it already has started to affect us. It's affecting us in the cost of food production, and we can see what is now being pushed slowly into our modern days, which is now the acceptance of this artificial food, which in my view is not good. If they're going to price us out of the market, then it only leaves us one really exit, and that is to produce our own food. And that, I think, is something that we need to consider doing. With regards to the cosmic radiation, it's going to be a little bit more difficult than that. There are some measures that we can take, such as taking more antioxidants. This is one of the things that they give the pilots on the spacecraft during the Apollo moon missions. So we know that antioxidants can slow down the cellular reproduction of the DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, and as a result of that, it gives the cell a little bit longer time to rebuild itself, as opposed to malfunctioning and connecting these little bits of DNA where they shouldn't be and causing cancers. So there are a few things we can do, guys. We can find out through the positioning of our muon detectors, we can find out where the stronger magnetic intensities are on our planet, and we can also use combined intensity region magnetometers, which allow us to know not only the intensity in the region that it's placed, but we can also place these in other regions where we know that the high intensity is moving. A little bit later on I'll show you in the video the map of where the main magnetic intensity is. And what we want to do first of all is, with these muon detectors, is we want to get those into the weak field so that we get a low, a reading of cosmic radiation in low protected regions where the magnetic field's low, like in the South Atlantic anomaly. So perfect locations for these would be, in that case, Brazil and South Africa. And then we want to put them in Australia, because that is where one of the most strongest magnetic intensities is right now on our planet, and we can get a reading as to how much cosmic radiation is inbound there, and as a result of the high intensity, how much protection you have. And then we can keep a constant check on where they are moving to, because if we look a few months ago at the map that I showed on YouTube in one of my videos, you could see that the intensity over Canada right now is reducing very, very quick. I'm going to go out on a little bit of a prediction here. I believe as a result of the intensity shrinking now over Canada, it's not going to get cooler, it's actually going to get warmer. That's what I believe will happen, because I believe the magnetic poles is dragging the Arctic climates along with them, and as a result of that we're going to get cooler climates heading towards Siberia in the future. And if that intensity over Canada is dissipating, then I believe we might start to see that continent or that region there start to warm up slightly. As a result of grand solar minimum though, we have to also factor that in, because we know when there's a low solar output we also have and experience low temperatures. The other thing is, and this is why it's so difficult, guys, to make predictions on all these, because you have to factor in so many things. The other thing is, we're overdue a return to a glacial period. We came out of a glacial period 12,000 years ago, and that is coincidentally aligning with the last excursion that we had as well. So we was in a magnetic event 12,000 years ago. We also was coming out of a glacial period. We're now in a magnetic event. We're also faced with possibly returning into a glacial period as a result of the grand solar minimum. There's a lot of speculation on the prediction for solar cycle 25. I'm the sort of person that likes to go with what we have in our hands right now, and what I see we have in our hands right now is a exponential depletion of solar sunspots over the last 3 solar cycles. And if you look at that chart, you can see it's going straight off the chart. Until I start to see it come back up, then we can all start to enjoy happier days with regards to rising climate and rising temperatures on this planet. But unless that happens, I'm afraid we're going to cool down, and we might even see Canada cool down as a result of the grand solar minimum. If we were only in a grand solar minimum, we'd probably see Canada actually not warm up, but cool down, warm up instead of cool down, because of the moving poles, which is taking those Arctic climates with it towards Siberia. So that's it in a nutshell, guys. That's what I think. Just sharing some thoughts on a few matters with you guys. Guys, as you know, I'm away next Thursday, and there's a lot of prepping going on, as you can see the cards behind. I'll be getting married on Thursday, and I wanted to have these at least one of these muon detectors up and running for us by today. It's been frustrating because we've had a lack of suppliers deliver on the dates that they've promised. We haven't had the OLEDs, and the OLED I've got probably would work, but I would rather use all the recommended parts, and there's not one part on here that hasn't been ordered according to the specifications of MIT, as you can see on the list, and all the ticks there. There's quite a specific list of components, and you have to get them right. If you remember, I says it's like that exam. This has got to be achieved 60 out of 60, and there can't be no mistakes. There might be 60 components or thereabouts to go on the board. You can see they're very small, all surface mount components, and if we get one of those in the wrong position on the board, that's also going to stop this thing working. I'm waiting till we can get a few more components in, and we can build the first handful of these muon detectors. But there's 3 PCB boards that have to be built, and also there's also our SIPM PCB with a little bit of work that's gone into that as well, to hold the singular crystal plastic block on the top. So it all depends. We still have a shot, guys, to get this finished Wednesday if the components arrive. We're going to need also some more money for more SIPMs, more singlet blocks, and some of the other components. I have brought enough to complete in some of the components, enough to do the 20, but there are a lot of components on there, and some of them are quite dear, and I thought, the best plan would be to actually get a few of these running, and we can start going to work with just a few of them. Not only that, we've got to build some more magnetometers, guys, and on top of this we're also doing, as you know, the cloud chamber, and these are all linked very nicely. First of all, we've got something that measures the magnetic poles or the intensities. That's why we've got these globally out there in the field. Then we've got something, as a result of the low intensity regions, we've got something that can measure the cosmic radiation, because that will be probably the prime objection to achieve, is just to work out how much cosmic radiation is coming in through these regions. And then we've got something that can show you guys the vapour trail as cosmic rays pass through them with the cloud chamber. So all three are very neatly tied in, and on top of that we've got the magnetosphere sensor here and the trimag system, which keeps track of the magnetic north pole's position every 3 seconds. So there's a lot going on at our observatory, and I've got to say this, guys, the workload has increased exponentially as well here, because I seem to be spending a lot of time these days with my head down, soldering components onto boards, and connecting magnetometers up to Arduinos, programming them, testing them, and we've had a few problems as well which we've had to overcome, which hopefully now we've got sorted out in Australia. A little bit later on, in fact I'll get on with that now, because what we did over the last few days in Australia with regards to that anomaly that we thought we had, where one of the magnetometers was flatlining, and yet there was a little bit of a different picture on the Gold Coast on the other side of Australia. What we decided to do, or what Jeff decided to do, is first of all he took one as far north as he could. So he got on a plane, flew 2 hours up north, just beneath the what is it, the what's the word of it, what's it called, Capricorn line, what I'm on about anyhow, Tropic of Capricorn, and it was in that region anyhow, just below it I think, and still in Australia, but as north as you could go, and took the magnetometer there, and it's still flat-lined. Well, that led the thought line to think that perhaps the intensity had gone that far up the one side of Australia, and therefore as a result of that we might need to be thinking then how far forward it is. But by this time Jeff had got his other magnetometer, which I'd sent out to him, and I made sure that one was all working perfectly, and he put the two side by side, and I'm going to show you the data and the results of that. But I have noticed something still on the data that Jeff sent, and I've compared it with the one in the Gold Coast, and they both seem to show smaller fluctuations of around about 1 microtesla to 1.5 microtesla, as opposed to the clear 2 microteslas that we see, say, in Hong Kong and in America. So, and of course here as well. So, there still could be something going on there in Australia, and what might be an idea for in the future is to put one of these in the deepest part of the magnetic intensity, perhaps over in Russia, or definitely in the central probably of Australia. So that's where we are with all this. Okay guys, so as usual we're doing more, and therefore we're spending more, and we've rapidly grown over this year, and the only way we can continue at the pace at which we're going is if we continue to raise the funds to finish off the muon detectors, and also build more magnetometers, as well as maintain what we've got already. And it is a crowd-funded observatory at the end of the day. We don't have any corporate funding at all. So if you want to help keep us going, then there's a couple of links there now. I've also included one for Bitcoin, because somebody said that they would donate on Bitcoin because they didn't like Patreon or PayPal. Well, I'll continue to put the link there. I know it hasn't been used yet, but there is the option of the one-off PayPal support, or you can support us on Patreon. But the main thing is, guys, is that, you know, it is supported because there isn't any other mainstream organisation or, you know, official scientific body, you know, giving you the answers to these questions that you know, I think you could benefit from. I think it is important we know when the magnetic poles migrate. I think it is important that we know where could be safer regions on this planet. I also think it's important to know how much cosmic radiation is actually inbound on the surface, at least, of our planet. And the only way we can answer those questions is if, first, guys, we get the support, and secondly, we do our utmost best to, you know, deliver. And up to yet, I know I'm slow, but up to yet, I have delivered everything I've promised, and I will continue to do that, guys. And it does require, you know, sometimes a lot of time and effort to do it. So, you know, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I dare say I will catch up with you as soon as I have something else I think that is relevant to talk about with you guys. I will share it as always, and don't forget the links are down there if you want to support us. Have a great weekend. I'll say what I usually do. Bye for now.